Hey everyone, I'm super excited today to be doing a product marketing management mock interview with Nick. Today we'll be doing a PMM behavioral style interview that simulates an actual interview you would receive in a PMM process. But before we jump into it, Nick, can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hey, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Nick. Just like Stephen mentioned, I'm a product marketing manager. Most recently at a company called Verkada, so it's a startup in San Mateo. And yeah, thanks for having me here, and I'm looking forward to our mock interview right here.
Yeah, me too. So as I mentioned, this is an Exponent mock interview. Exponent today has actually launched a new product marketing management interview prep course. So if you're interested in getting even more prep with tons of mock videos like this one and detailed lessons written up by PMMs from companies like Google and Facebook, be sure to check out our website at tryexponent.com, and there will be a link in the description below. But without further ado, Nick, let's jump into this mock interview. I'm super excited to be mock interviewing you. Fun fact to everyone watching, Nick and I actually went to high school together, so super cool to be doing this live on YouTube now. And so, Nick, I just wanted to start off, maybe we could just do sort of like, tell me a little bit about yourself, what led you into product marketing management, and maybe spend a couple minutes just telling me about your roles at your previous companies that you worked at.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, product marketing manager most recently at a company called Verkada. But prior to all of that, I went to school at UC San Diego and graduated with a degree in electrical engineering. And kind of just during my time in school, I had a couple of technical internships. The first of which was at a aerospace company down in San Diego, and I was a little more hardware oriented. And then my second internship was at a medical device company up in Menlo Park, a little more software oriented internship. And yeah, both internship experiences were in the respective R&D groups, and learned a lot from both experiences, but also learned that R&D wasn't necessarily for me. It was very much siloed off from the rest of the company. You're working on one small component of a larger project. And you know what? I just wanted something that was more creative and customer facing. So kind of towards the end of college, I spoke to family and friends, and one of my cousins actually mentioned, hey, why don't you check out product marketing or technical marketing? And that's what led me to land my first gig as a product marketing manager at a company called Keysight Technologies. And I'm not sure if you know anything about Keysight, but Keysight's in the electronic test and measurement space. And what that really means is that they make these hardware boxes, so typically called oscilloscopes or signal analyzers. And we sell these hardware boxes to a very technical buyer. So engineers at other companies that are making electronic devices. So this could be a cell phone, a laptop they're using right now, a monitor, whatever. Before any of these products can actually be brought to market, they have to be tested primarily for two things. First, if it's operating as the engineer has designed it, and also secondly, if it's meeting local or federal regulations. So for example, before you can bring a smartphone to market, you have to test it against FCC, right? You have to make sure that it's FCC compliant. So FCC will outline a couple of different specs that your phone has to meet, and you use the Keysight equipment or just test equipment in general to actually ensure that your device meets those specs. So basically, Keysight, we enable engineers to make those tests for those two different reasons that I outlined earlier. And then, yeah, within Keysight itself, there's three different business units. So there's a digital set of products, there's the bench set of products, and then there's the RF or radio frequency set of products. And within RF, there's three core product lines that we had at Keysight, which was signal analyzers, signal generators, and network analyzers. And I led the product marketing for signal analyzers and signal generators. And then just like any product marketer, my main responsibility was to drive demand and awareness to these two product lines. So primarily this was through technical content creation, such as blogs, videos, webinars, white papers, and application notes. And this was either for sustained marketing campaigns, it was for product launches, or even just sales enablement content. And I partnered a lot with the product managers and also sales teams at Keysight, in addition to like other marketing functions such as demand generation, so that my content was actually being seen, branding and design to actually kind of beautify my content that I was creating, and then Marcom to actually write email content as well. So that was kind of my experience at Keysight. During Keysight, I led a couple of different product launches, probably 5 to 6 different product launches. And the most recent product launch was a product called VXG, and that was actually geared towards the wireless industry, and it helped engineers generate 5G compliant signals. So the three main segments within wireless were actually chipset manufacturers, so like Broadcom and Qualcomm, mobile phone manufacturers like Apple and Samsung, and then also you can think of like wireless carriers or base station manufacturers like Verizon, AT&T. So they've used the VXG product to help them generate 5G compliant signals to test their receivers. So kind of like towards the end of last year, though, I felt like I kind of just learned the ropes of what to do at Keysight and kind of felt a little more repetitive and redundant. So I made the decision to actually just kind of switch over to a startup called Verkada. So I joined this startup called Verkada this past January, and Verkada is way different from Keysight in that they are a video surveillance company. So you can think of them as like the Ring or Nest for businesses, so enterprise grade video surveillance. But unlike Ring and Nest, where you are exclusively just streaming to the cloud, which is okay if you're a consumer because you're only deploying like 1 or 2 cameras at your house. For businesses, they're typically deploying like anywhere between 50 to even hundreds of cameras across their sites. So this is a huge problem for them because that could really mean that they're choking up the bandwidth on their network when they have other devices that they want to run within their enterprise. So that was a pretty big differentiator for Verkada. And yeah, I was the first technical product marketing hire for them to actually kind of write content, right? So this would be like the webinars that I mentioned earlier, videos, blogs, so on and so forth. And kind of a couple of the quick wins that I had at Verkada was actually creating industry webinars. So early on into my time at Verkada, I noticed that, hey, we only have one webinar that's running. So we want some more industry specific webinars. So was able to do that. So yeah, long spiel about myself, but that's my background right there.
No, super cool. And that's what I would ask for. And it's super cool to hear about your background. Sounds like you have a lot of experience with webinars, which is maybe useful for even this setting too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to switch gears a little bit and talk about your relationship with product management and sales. And if you could talk a little bit more about your experience working with product management and sales.
Definitely, yeah. So, I mean, the way I would define my relationship with product management and sales is product management is very much a partnership. So with product management, we're leading product marketing or product launches together a lot. So whereas I would go to them to kind of like help me define, hey, who's the audience that we're trying to target with this product? And then also what are some of the challenges that these folks are actually encountering? So kind of drawing back to my experience earlier from the VXG launch that I mentioned is we first and foremost figure out, hey, who are we selling this product to and what are their challenges? So I think I mentioned that, hey, we're selling it to everyone in the wireless industry or a big part of the wireless industry. So like mobile phone manufacturers, people that are making base stations, or even just the chipset manufacturers as well. And then also what are the challenges that they encounter when they're trying to do 5G testing on their devices, right? So once I actually figured that out with the product managers, then I would, as a product marketer, kind of create a messaging document. And from that messaging document, I would actually get it vetted by the product managers. And then all my other content would stem from that messaging document. So whether it be the videos that I created for it, webinars, blogs, application notes, so on and so forth, I'd create this content plan, get that vetted by product management, and then just go ahead and do it, right? So it's kind of what I did with product management. And then sales, so it is also kind of a partnership, but it's more so I, as a product marketer, trying to make sure that the messaging that we have for our products is actually getting conveyed to businesses, right? So because I have a lot of experience with enterprise, my product marketing experience has primarily been B2B. We have to make sure that our messaging is very tight. It really fits what we're trying to convey for our products, and that other businesses know what our products can do for them and can help them, how it can help them overcome their challenges, right? So yeah, working with sales, I lead a lot of like product demonstrations with them. I give them a lot of sales enablement content. Whenever we're doing a product launch, I will actually do meetings with them prior to launch. So 90, 60, 30 days out. And each time we're meeting with them, we're telling them, hey, this is what we have in terms of content. And this is also how you should be talking to either your big accounts or even just smaller accounts that might be coming in through the funnel. So yeah, that's been my relationship with both segments.
Awesome. Well, thanks for explaining that. Super concrete and detailed. Would love to talk a little bit about if you can discuss a time that you've taken initiative,
Yeah.
and we can talk through a little bit about what enabled you to do that.
Definitely, yeah. So I think I mentioned earlier that big reason why I joined product marketing was I wanted something a little more creative and fun and customer facing. And one thing that I get out of product marketing that I couldn't get out of R&D was actually making videos, right? So videos is also like really good for hardware products, especially because most customers want to see the product in action, right, before they commit to a purchase. So kind of early on in my experience at Keysight, I noticed a lot of the content that we had was pretty dry. It was boring. It wasn't engaging. So I wanted to come up with an idea for more engaging content. So I had an idea for a video series that I titled What the RF. So it was a play on words because I covered RF products at Keysight. And then essentially what the purpose of each video was to talk about how to make fundamental measurements with signal analyzers. So each video would be like, hey, this is how you can make this XYZ measurement on your device, and this is what you can do. And then the call to action at the end of each video would be like, hey, if you want to learn more about this measurement or just RF testing in general, go ahead and check out the application note or white paper in the description box below. And then that would take the person viewing the video to a landing page. And from there, we can actually discern the number of clicks that we're getting, and also the number of form fills. So end of the day, big metric for us is MQL. So yeah, it was a fun little project that I got to work on at Keysight. And funny enough that like early on into like kind of thinking about this idea, legal got involved because they thought it was very off-brand. This wasn't something that we did as a company. So luckily my manager was on board with the idea, and we kind of like convinced legal that, hey, this might be worthwhile to do. And luckily enough for me, it actually was pretty successful.
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like a really cool idea. I guess one quick follow-up there is like, how did you convince the team? Like, what was some of your persuasion methods in convincing everyone to switch over?
Definitely, yeah. So I think one way we were able to convince the team is that we were actually able to pull in some sales guys and also their direct accounts, and we were able to kind of just like pull them, hey, like, do you think this is something that our customers would engage with, right? Something that they would want to see, that they would find helpful. So on and so forth, right? So it was a matter of just kind of getting the sales guys involved who have those personal relationships with these accounts and these big customers. And then through that, we were able to convince the legal team that, hey, it might be worthwhile to do this. And in addition to that, we were like, hey, like as a marketing team, we're really trying to just kind of push the envelope in terms of content that we're releasing. We want content that is actually being seen and it's something that actually generates some leads for us as a marketing group. And then we think this might be worthwhile to do because it actually just taps into another area that we've never explored before.
Awesome. And one other follow up on that is, I'm hearing a lot of these campaigns that you took initiative with. How do you measure the impact of some of these pieces of marketing collateral that you're creating?
Yeah, so we're measured primarily on MQLs, and what MQLs, the marketing qualified leads, right? So essentially, for example, that what the RF content that I created. So you have the marketing or sales funnel, which is like top of the level, middle of the level, and bottom of the level funnel content. So top level means like awareness content. Middle funnel would be evaluation content, and then bottom funnel would be actually commit to purchase. So for top funnel content, this would be like that what the RF video series. So brought awareness for our products, but it didn't necessarily generate leads. It was cool to like for people to actually be aware of Keysight as a company and also the products. So that's where I had to actually figure out, hey, what content can I create to actually generate leads from that video series? So that's when I created the application and white paper that I would reference at the end of each video. So call to action to that piece of content in the description box. So people would click into that, which would take them to that landing page. And then from there, we can actually figure out the number of MQLs or marketing qualified leads that we were generating. So for my best video in that video series, it was probably anywhere between like 40 to 50 clicks per day. But for most marketing content, it was like a drop off in terms of signups. So it was anywhere between 2 to 3% of people actually filling out the form. So there wasn't necessarily a hard number for MQLs, but it was more of like, let's evaluate how many people are actually filling out the form from the number of clicks that we're getting into the landing page.
Got it. Makes sense. So sort of a funnel of sorts, basically.
Yeah.
Last question I had before we kind of jump to feedback and things like that is that you mentioned you worked on some product launches. Can you walk me through sort of how you've contributed to a successful launch and maybe when supporting a new product might typically end?
Yeah, definitely. So always drawing on that experience with the VXG product, and it's probably because it was the most recent product that I launched. So the VXG product, with any product launch, the first and foremost thing you want to do is actually define who the audience and what the challenges of that audience is. So partner with product managers. I also brought in some sales guys that had the big accounts within the wireless industry that we were targeting with this product. And then also just the R&D project group itself. So it was several like phone calls, video calls with these different stakeholders. And we were just really trying to nail down, hey, these are all the challenges that this audience is facing. This is how we think our solution, our product, the VXG, can help them overcome those challenges. So There were a lot of challenges and solutions being thrown out through these several calls, and it was my responsibility as a product marketer to actually boil it down to like the top 3 challenges, right? So once I was able to do that, then I was able to craft the messaging document, and then from there, create all the other content or create a content plan that would help support the launch of this VXG product. So like I mentioned earlier, I needed top level, middle level, and also bottom level content. So this could be videos or just blogs for top level content, and just other content for the other parts of the funnel. And yeah, so from there, I was able to figure out content that I needed for prior to launch, and also at launch, and also just content that would go into supporting the product post launch as well. So really, most people like to think that you're really done with supporting a product launch at launch date, but it really doesn't stop there. You're still supporting the product even after launch date, because if you are launching a product, then that means you've kind of identified or evaluated that there is a market share there and there is a market need. So you have to continue supporting it with content and other means even after launch. Sure, it might not be as heavy in terms of content, but it's still being supported in one way or another.
Got it. Super helpful explanation. Would love to sort of maybe wrap there, and you can take your interviewer hat off. You did an excellent job, Nick. That was super awesome. Would love to talk a little bit more informally about how the interview was for you, and then I wrote down tons of notes about what I thought you did that made this a super effective interview.
Cool.
But before I jump into some of that thoughts, did you have any self-reflection on how that interview went?
Yeah, self-reflection. I think one thing that I definitely noticed was that I was being a little repetitive and redundant with my answers. So there were times where maybe I was drawing on the same example too much, and it might have been more impactful to actually bring up another product launch example or just another initiative that I may have done through my product marketing experience. And then also, I think another thing that I could have done better is that because the product marketing role is it's measured and there's a bunch of metrics involved in terms of how well your content is doing. I could have dove into more metrics of like how well my content was doing beyond just MQLs, right? So so just I think drawing a more kind of more various or a variety of examples would have been useful.
What I thought you did really effectively was that you clearly demonstrated your technical knowledge in the interview. You did a great job sort of demonstrating your expertise, and you had a lot of information that, as a typical maybe like person not aware of the space might not know much about. So it was clear that you had a lot of that information. I thought you did a really effective job breaking down problems or breaking down your answers into smaller chunks. You often did stuff like there are 3 units, or there are, like these aspects, or like you would sort of break it down for me. Even though your answers were complicated in terms of just like having complex information in them, you broke them down in a way that was easily understandable and digestible to me. I thought you were an engaging speaker. The WTRF thing was like kind of funny. It was like a engaging interview just to have. And that instance was a really great example of demonstrating your expertise, but also your initiative that I thought was really effective.
Cool.
Another thing that I really loved about your interview is that you were super specific and concrete a lot of the time. So you wouldn't just say, oh, I partner with product management. I see product management as a partner. You said, I make a messaging document. Like, this is the surface with which I interact with that team. And that's really effective in an interview because, as an interviewer, you might hear so many different types of people coming in saying many different things, but it's hard to know if someone actually knows what to do on the job, and you did a great job showing that. Another area of strength that I saw in your interview was your cross-functional skills. A lot of times you said you'd partner with different teams, you persuaded different teams, and as a PMM, that's almost like a bread and butter part of your job is working with all these different people. So I thought that was really effective as well.
Cool.
And then I just wrote a couple notes on areas of improvement or tips to the watchers. I agree with the repetitive, redundant thing. There were a couple times where I thought that maybe it went on a little long, or we could have used different examples. Diving into metrics would have been curious. I will say I didn't sort of ask for so much of that. So as a PMM interviewee, folks watching should be prepared to go into that if they need to. But I thought the level you did was sort of okay, and it certainly could have been a little bit more. And then another tip I just had is that in the tell me about yourself, I'm not at an actual company, I'm at just Exponent. But if I were at a company, it would be helpful to tailor that tell me about yourself in a way that addresses how you would be a good fit for that company. And
Definitely.
so, in this scenario, you really couldn't have done that, but you perhaps could have said something if you're interviewing at a specific company to say, hey, I have a lot of technical expertise, which I know is really valuable for this company, and weaving that into your tell me about yourself question.
Awesome. Okay.
Totally. Yeah. Overall, like, thanks for being on the show. You did a great job. If viewers want to know more about you or anything like that, where should they go to find out more?
Yeah, you can just find me on LinkedIn. Very easy to search. My name is just Nick Ben, so two
Cool.
first names. So
Awesome.
yeah, if you want to connect, feel free to just connect with me on LinkedIn.
And we'll put a link in the description below as well. Thanks once again, Nick, for being on the show. This was a really great interview. And good luck to folks who are interviewing for PMM roles.